Um, all right, so hi, I'm Trish McMillan. I'm going to be talking about body language today. The most important thing you can learn when people say, oh, I want to be a dog trainer, where should I start? I say, you've really got to become fluent in speaking dog. And right now I'm doing dog, cat, and horse behavior consulting, and I feel like more than anything else, I am translating for the animals. So this is something you can do for your adopters, you can do for new volunteers, for people who work for you. Really, really important to be able to speak dog. So I'm just doing an overview. This presentation is about an hour, but keep learning. There are a lot of other resources. I'm happy to share those with you as well. There's other videos, there's books, and I'm still learning things about body language. One of the best things I did when I first started working with dogs was I worked in a dog daycare for 2.5 years, and just having your eyes on dogs interacting for 2,000 hours a year can really teach you a lot. You start sort of almost feeling what they're going to do next. So don't think, okay, I did Trisha's presentation, I now know everything about body language. It is impossible for me to put it all into an hour, but I'm gonna give you some of the basics, and hopefully there's some stuff that you can springboard off and keep on learning. And I urge you, keep on learning. Dog behavior and training is a lifelong process. So one of the best things you can do if you're going to be a shelter wrangler especially is become an expert in reading what the dog's telling you. That'll help you sort of change how you're handling the dog to be more appropriate. It will help you meet the dog's needs because you'll be aware as soon as they become fearful, the slightest little change, you can change your handling, you can change their environment, and it'll help you stay safe because you're going to be able to see the problems before they happen and hopefully avoid any explosions. So one thing I like to think about when I'm looking at dogs is if you just look at this pit bull's face, it's kind of like seeing just one word in the sentence. So taking a look at this pit bull, just type in the chat, what emotions do you have around this little glimpse into his world? Because if you're just walking by the kennels and take a glance into the kennel, you might see a dog like this with a few wrinkles on his face and he's licking his lips, and you might get a feeling. So Barbara says he's not happy. Good. I don't think he's thrilled. Often the lip lick is a sign of stress. Anybody else get any different feelings from him? And I picked an ambiguous picture, so there's no wrong answers. Don't feel like I'm going to come down on you if you say the wrong thing. Uncomfortable, yeah, I think I could see how that would happen. So if you're just taking a glimpse of a dog or doing a one-time evaluation on a shelter dog, all you're looking at is one word in the sentence. And the word might be just the word dog. I had everybody muted and I missed one. There we go. My dogs will probably bark at some point during this presentation as well. So it's hard to know a lot about the dog. So let's pull back a little bit. Same picture, but I've just zoomed out a little bit. You're looking at the environment a little more. Do you get any different feelings now that you see that there's two dogs in this interaction? We're still concentrating on the pit bull and what he might be feeling. Does this change at all? Sometimes people see the other dog. You can't tell much about her because all you see is that her ears are back a little bit and she's bigger. I will tell you she's a female and this pit bull's a male. You're still feeling like he's a little unsure. You can see now that you can see his legs and he's got his weight shifted back away from her. So I agree, he's not totally comfortable. But again, this is just reading one sentence. We're looking a little more context. If you really want to know the dogs, you've got to look at not just their facial expression, not just their tail, not just one piece. You need to look at the whole paragraph. So I'm going to play you a video of this interaction. Hopefully it will play over all these miles. You'll be able to see it. If not, it will show up in the recording. You'll be able to see it better there. So I'm going to play the video and type into the chat if you have any different feelings about them.
And I am too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. too sexy for your party. Too sexy for your party.
The music might give you a little bit of a hint about what's going on there. So now you see there's actually 3 dogs in the interaction. The third dog has nothing to do with anything that's going on. But the pit bull's kind of dancing around her. He's wagging his tail. His ears are a little bit off to the side. Does anybody have any different feelings looking at the whole paragraph? And this is a great way to learn to read dogs, is to video them, and even to video them in slow motion. I was so excited when I got my first camera that did slow motion videos. And yeah, Christina said he wants to interact. Yeah. And Barbara said he's courting. Yes, he's definitely flirting with her. So I actually know the whole book about these 2 dogs. I have known them since they were both very young dogs. So the big black dog, she's actually half Dalmatian and half lab. She has belonged to a behaviorist friend of mine since she was a baby puppy. And she has never been great with other dogs. My friend did everything right with her. She socialized her. She went to daycare. She went to puppy classes. And she's just never cared for other dogs. The little pit bull is my fight bus dog. He was taken off a dog fighter's chain when he was 8 months old. So he was not socialized at all. But he is super social. He's kind of a magic dog. He can make any dog play with him. So Stella used to board with me for about 10 days a month. Maybe for about a year while her mom was doing a lot of traveling. And every time she came over, Theo was like, I am going to make friends with you this time. And he would dance around and he would flirt. You can see he's keeping his distance. You can see he's a little concerned because Stella will blow up at him once in a while. She won't hurt him, but she doesn't love other dogs. And this was actually right before the very first time they played. And he was the first dog that she had ever played with. She's probably 9 years old in this, and he's about 2 years old. And he was one of the first dogs to sort of crack Stella and get her to play. She's made a couple more friends since then. But Theo just does not take no for an answer, and he's just very good at keeping his distance and matching his play style to what the dog wants. So now you know the whole book on both of them, and the dog in the background is my Puerto Rican street dog. She's old and she does not care to interact. So I know all this stuff because I'm the owners. When the dogs come in the shelter, you're not going to have the whole book, but you can certainly look at more than just the word and try to get the whole paragraph, try to read what's going on. And a lot of you got that. You saw the flirting, you saw that he was stressed. So keep videoing. If dog body language is new to you, watching 2 dogs interact and putting it in video, putting it in slow motion video, you can see all the little micro expressions on them. So another important concept when you're talking about body language is to look at behavior as being on a spectrum. So we're humans. We like to give things labels, and we might look at the Doberman on the left and go, well, that's a happy Doberman. There she is out on the river. She's got a big smile on her face. You might look at the Doberman on the right and go, that's an angry Doberman. She's showing her teeth, her pupils are blown. But that's the same Doberman. You can't just say that's an aggressive dog on the right and that's a friendly dog on the left. They're the same dog, just different contexts. So rather than giving dogs labels, I want to teach you to describe the behavior objectively. So rather than saying that's a happy dog on the left, you might say her mouth is open, her tongue is out, her ears are forward, her eyes are squinty. Whereas the dog on the left, she has a C-shaped mouth, she has wrinkles on top of her nose, her pupils are blown, her ears are back, she's crouched over. So describe the behavior rather than saying that dog's angry, that dog's happy, and that will help paint a picture for the next person, because you might be misreading the behavior. But if you're taking notes on a dog's behavior, try to write down what the dog was doing in a way that it'll paint a picture in my mind. Because if you say this is a happy dog, that doesn't tell me anything. But if you describe what the dog is doing, I'll be able to better interpret what's going on. So one of the spectrums that I look at, probably the most important one when you're deciding how to handle a shelter dog, is where the dog is on the loose versus stiff spectrum. So we're going to give these dogs a number. So if number 1 is as loose and wiggly as a dog can get, the muscles are loose, the tail is floppy, the tongue is floppy, the ears are like, there's just no tension at all. So that's number 1. And number 10 is as stiff as a dog can get. There's the muscles are rigid, the dog is practically unmoving. So here's a boxer standing on his loading dock. So 1 is loose, 10 is stiff. Give him a number between 1 and 10 on where he is. So 1 is loose, as relaxed as a dog can get, and 10 is as stiff as a dog can get. So where would this guy be? So all right, we got our numbering backwards. Another thing you can do to decide where they are on the loose versus stiff tail is look at all the little movements the dog is doing. So if you had to count how many times he lifted his paws in that little stretch of video, or how many times his tail hit himself on either side. With a loose dog, you will see lots and lots of little movements. So he's being very appeasing. He's got his ears back. I love the little paddly paws. He's wagging so hard that he's hitting himself. You can see his tail over here, whacking himself on the side. So we've got some 1s and some 2s. I agree this dog would almost be a 0. I can't think, the only thing that would make him look more loose is if his mouth was open, but clearly it's cold out. He's wearing his jacket, so he's probably doesn't have his mouth open just because he's cold. If this was a summer day, he would definitely be panting. All right, I'm going to show you the dog with the same breed, another boxer, but in a very different context. And again, I want you to sort of count in your head how many times he does these little affiliative movements. These are friendly movements that this dog is making. He's saying, please approach me. I really, really want to meet you. So look at the second dog. Again, 1 is very loose, very friendly, very affiliative. 10 is as stiff as a dog can get. So same breed, different dog. So what number would you give him? So very different dog, right? If you had to take each of these dogs out of the kennel, you'd handle them quite differently. Yeah, everybody's giving him a 9. He's given you no friendly signals. And for me, this is some of the dogs that have put the little hairs up on the back of my neck and really made me worry are the dogs who are giving no friendly signals. So he's not doing anything. He's not snarling. He's not lunging at the glass. But the only thing moving are his eyes. So, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to bite you, but he is really stiff and he's really worried. And if I had to take both of these dogs out for a walk, the first one I'd be all like, oh my God, I love this dog, making out with him. And this second dog, I would be very cautious with. I would not be, on the floor trying to make him love me. This is not a dog who's giving me any friendly signals. So even if I'm meeting dogs on the street, if there's a dog, I don't know if they do this in Singapore, but they do it in North Carolina, if there's a dog tied up outside the coffee shop, that first dog, I would totally pet that dog. I tend not to pet dogs I don't know, but that first dog is giving me every signal, please, please, please touch me. This guy, I would give him a wide berth. He is not giving me any signals that he wants to interact. And my friend Ian Dunbar calls these 0 dogs. So if you think about having a counter in your hand and you had to count friendly signals with dog number 1, the counter would light on fire. You'd be clicking it so fast, right? There were so many friendly signals. This one, that whole 30 seconds we're looking at him, there was not one movement. You wouldn't make one count of a friendly signal this dog is giving. So he's what Ian Dunbar calls a 0 dog, and be really cautious with dogs who are like this, who are giving you no friendly signals. They're often the ones that are most dangerous. So I'm going back to my Doberman Sarah. I will admit this was my first Doberman. Adopted her in 1999. Obviously, she's no longer with us, but she does look pretty horrible here, doesn't she? You can see the wrinkles on top of her nose. You can see how big her pupils are because I had the flash on. And you might think, okay, that's just an aggressive dog, but I don't zoom out in this picture. I can't zoom out because I don't have the rest of the context, but I will tell you, she's in my office at the shelter. She was there to see the vet that day. And somebody brought a puppy into the office, and she does not care for puppies. So she's just giving a warning, like, you take one step closer and I am going to make a really loud noise in your face. She never hurt puppies, but she just didn't care for them. So, yeah, this is a moment in time, and this is in context. This dog was not particularly friendly towards puppies. If you came into my office and you were not a puppy, she'd probably come over and say hi to you. So don't just say, well, this dog is aggressive. It's you need to know the whole story. You need to know the context. So my speaking partner, Michael Shikashio, has a podcast called The Bitey End of the Dog, and he stole it from this slide of mine because this is something I tell people all the time. I have presented on body language all over, and a lot of people get really obsessed with dogs' tails. Like, the dog was wagging, so he wants me to approach him. I pay most of my attention to the bitey end of the dog. So I look at the eyes, I look at the mouth, I look at the ears, I look at all the expressions on the side that's going to bite, because wagging tail, we'll talk about that later, it means arousal, and it can be good arousal or not good arousal. So this is my old dog Cosmo. He was a mini Aussie. He was not a particularly nice mini Aussie. He had bitten quite a few people before his owners gave him to me. So he was a little bit tricky to read because he almost always had some of the whites of his eyes showing. I think the picture on the left is one of the few, you can see a little bit of white over here. One of the few pictures I have where he isn't showing a lot of whites to his eyes. So he kind of freaks people out with that expression. But I'm going to look at the shape of the eye first, because that'll give you an idea where the dog is on loose versus stiff, relaxed or tense. So what shape would you call the eyes on left side Cosmo here? You could type it in the chat. Yeah, Mike does need to pay me royalties for the podcast. He does give me credit when he talks about it. He did a poll on what to call his podcast, and everybody liked The Bitey End of the Dog. So go listen to it. It's a great podcast. Yeah, so those are almond-shaped eyes. You might call them squinty eyes. So the face, and it's because the muscles around the eyes are really relaxed, so the eyes are squishy. That first boxer, he had very squinty eyes, whereas the second boxer had very round eyes. So in the middle, you can see that the eyes are completely circular. Like you couldn't draw a more perfect circle if you had a compass. So in the middle picture is when he was very, very old. He had dementia, and Cosmo would pace and pant around the house and lick the floor, and he was very stressed for many hours at night because his mind was going. And you can see the tension in his face, the round eyes, the big pupils, and so there's a lot of tension in his face, and it's kind of hard to tell. I like my pit bulls and my Dobermans because you can see every little wrinkle on them. The fluffier dogs, I find personally a little bit harder to read, but you can tell by the shape of the eyes a lot. Now the picture on the right over here is a little bit ambiguous, and this one throws a lot of people. I've already warned you that he always shows a lot of the whites of his eyes. But you see all the white showing over here. Now, the eye is still pretty soft. It's pretty squinty, but there's a lot of white showing. So what are you going to believe? What are you going to look at first? The eye shape or how much white is showing? And this is, oh dear, I'm not on my Zoom Pro account. It says the meeting's going to end. If it ends, we will all log back in. It's very strange. See if I can, let me see if I can sign in mid seminar. I used somebody else's Zoom account for my last webinar, and I think it has forgotten me. We'll see if that works. If it dumps me, we'll come back in. Was he blind in the last picture? No, he's not. He didn't go blind. He just got he just had dementia. He got very confused. So Izzy says shape, and that is the correct answer. And it looks like he might be begging. He's actually got his head on the floor and he's looking out the window. So you can see the reflection of the window in his eye. And this is hard, like zooming in on one body part. I'm kind of throwing some tough stuff at you here. But yeah, Christina got it. He was looking up to see something. So he's just looking off to the side. It's a little freaky because he's got so much white to the eyes. But that's just Cosmo. So we will move on to the next one. So the soft eyes often go with the open mouth. Again, if it's not cold, you just told me it's always hot in Singapore, so you're going to often see dogs with an open mouth. Often the ears are back as well when the dog is loose and wiggly. So both of these dogs are have the squinty eyes, and on the right he doesn't even have his eyes open. He's so squinty, and this big, relaxed, open, smiley mouth. Those are all welcoming, friendly, soft gestures. This dog has a really round eye, lots of facial tension. The mouth is closed, the lip is short. I actually met this dog. This belongs to a friend of mine in Australia. And this is sometimes called a whale eye or a half moon eye when the dog is tense and showing a lot of white. And this dog is doing this because she is having a medical episode. She is really not feeling well. She's lost, it's a vestibular thing. She's lost her balance. And this was when it first came on, and she came to her people with her eyes wide open, just saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. This is very confusing. So here's a whale eye for a good reason. Look at all the white this dog's showing of his eyes. He's licking his lips. His lip is short. See the cheeks puffing there. Yep, that's right. Get out of Dodge. That is a very pointy cat. We like dogs to learn that cats are pointy. That's what it looks like in video. So here's something that a lot of people misunderstand. This is a hard eye. It often goes with a freeze, and this often happens before a dog tries to bite you. This is a dog who's giving a threat, so he's very still. There's not a muscle moving. His eyes are round, his pupils are large, and he's giving you a hard stare. And when you have seen one of those, you will not miss it the next time you see it. But this is something that's really hard for humans to answer. If you think about a kid approaching a dog who's eating out of a food bowl, and the dog freezes, like a dog reads that. Those of you who have more than one dog, I'm sure you've seen one dog's chewing on a bone. The other dog comes into the room and the dog with the bone stops. The other dog will go, oh, whoops, sorry, I didn't know you had a bone. Let me get out of your way. But a kid won't see that. A freeze looks like a lack of behavior. So when I hear suddenly and without warning the dog bit me, I would bet if I saw some video, the dog was giving you a warning. You just don't speak dog, so you didn't see it. So that if you're educating people about dog behavior, especially if you're adopting out a dog who has handling issues or has resource guarding issues, really teach people what a freeze looks like. So this was back in the days when I used to torment dogs with rubber hands. I don't do that anymore. But watch this dog. He gives a very short freeze before he bites me. I'm doing stupid things with the hand. You wouldn't do this with a real hand. Yeah, it's a warning sign. So the dog is saying, get away from my stuff. In this next video, you'll see that quick freeze before he bites my hand. It's a fake hand. So he feels that he gave me a good warning. I froze. I said, go away. And you poked me with a hand. So I had to bite you, which is one of the reasons I don't use fake hands with shelter dogs anymore. Now, other species don't understand freezes. You see this dog is frozen. Chickens don't understand it. It's a very good dog. It doesn't go beyond freezing. But a hard eye and a freeze is not part of a chicken warning. Like chickens, they'll just peck you on the head. The pecking order really is a thing. I have chickens, but they don't understand the freeze, as you could see. And we don't either. A toddler might do the same thing. Now, sometimes you can see the size of the dog's pupil. So this is a dog that I look after fairly frequently. She has really bright blue eyes, so you can easily see her pupil size. Now, both of these videos were taken right beside a window. You can see the reflection of the window in both of them during daylight. But it's a different dog on the right than on the left, right? The dog on the left is just relaxed, hanging out in the car, kind of an almond-shaped eyes. This is another one of those dogs that you can see the whites of her eyes all the time. But on the right, she just had her head on my lap, and I glanced down and I saw suddenly her pupils were taking up her entire eye. So the first thing I did, this is a dog with a bite history as well, so I'm careful with her. That's why she boards with me. But she was doing that on the bottom because the Doberman was walking in and going past her, and she was concerned. She's on my lap, she's got her person, and there's another dog approaching. So you can tell her internal state has changed, even though she didn't do anything. So I made the Doberman go away because I was having special time with my dog. If it's a dog with darker eyes, you're not going to be able to see that as easily unless you got a flash on your camera. But you can, and this does have a flash on the camera, so you can see the difference in the pupils. This is the same dog. But what you might see if it's a shelter kennel and you're reaching in with your leash to get the dog out of the kennel, it might look like the eyes are just a little extra shiny, and that's because the light is reflecting off the surface on the back of the dog's eye. So one thing I really tell people to do is pay attention to your own body, because you might not register like why this dog feels a little weird to you today, but your body will recognize this is a dog with their pupils blown, extra reflective eyes. That dog who bit me with the hand, I'll show him to you in a different webinar. He does try to bite me later on in that assessment. And he was a dog that as soon as I met him, all the hairs went up on the back of the neck, and it's not because he's a pit bull. I got a pit bull beside me right now. I love pit bulls, but because he was showing no friendly signs, he had no interest in interacting with me. And that's such an important thing to pay attention to. So if you feel the little hairs go up on the back of your neck, your body may know something that you don't. It is okay to get a second handler, get someone else to help you. Pay attention to those little hairs, because in my experience, they haven't been wrong. So here's another thing that a lot of people misunderstand. It says I have less than a minute left. I don't think it understood me signing into my own Zoom account. I guess I can't do that halfway through, but I'll explain this, and if we drop, we'll all just sign back in, and I will sign into my account, and hopefully that'll work. So a lot of people, when they see a dog upside down, they think this dog wants a belly rub, right? You see a belly, you want to rub it. I'm going to tell you that not all dogs who are upside down want a belly rub. Sometimes they are tapping out. Sometimes they're saying, I give up, please go away. And the difference is seen in the loose versus stiff again. So you can see on the left, the dog is floppy, the tail is floppy, everything's relaxed about this dog. You can see a little bit of whites of the eyes. His pupils are big, probably because it's dark, because the flash is going off. But his spine is curved. Everything about this dog, if you saw it in motion, he'd be wiggly and floppy. The dog on the right is really stiff. The tail is curved under. The dog's mouth is closed. The lip is short. She's kind of turning away. So this is a dog who is very, very tense and very worried, and she's upside down saying, please stop.